Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining. I realize that this title is actually a misnomer because we have my colleague from the Green Power Partnership on as well. So this is really EPA recognition you can earn. And we're hoping that, this webinar helps kickstart your 2022 goals on earning recognition from EPA. So we want to see more colleges and universities participate and earn recognition through our program. So you go to the next slide, please. So a quick agenda for today. I'll go through the speakers. You'll hear from myself on our buildings program recognition, as well as from a representative from our ENERGY STAR products team, and then a representative from our Green Power Partnership team before wrapping it up with Northwestern University, which has participated sort of across our various programs, and then we'll leave some time, hopefully, for Q&A at the end. Next slide, please. So this is us. I'm in the top left corner. We'll do some quick intros. So I'm in my 6th year here at EPA ENERGY STAR on the buildings team, where I support state and local governments as a co-lead, and I lead our support to the higher education sector. And before EPA, I worked for the city of Ann Arbor in Michigan. And I'm going to read off the bios because that's I don't want to miss anything here. So Dan Lawler is next. He's in the upper right, going clockwise. He works in the ENERGY STAR products labeling branch with a particular focus on HVAC products. And he works with key stakeholders to advance awareness of our products. He's been with the agency for a little over a year and a half. Before that, working for the cabinets group, where he supported the ENERGY STAR program as a consultant. So we're lucky to have him on board. Next is Chris Kent in the lower right. Chris has served with the EPA Green Power Partnership team since 2015, where he focuses on marketing and education. Prior to his current role, he worked at the EPA on various energy efficiency efforts and also in other regulatory and voluntary programs focused on promoting source reduction. And last but not least is Julie Cahalane, who is the Associate Director for Sustainability at Northwestern University, which she's been with since 1994, and where she supports the university's strategic sustainability plan and co-chairs its resource conservation working group. She began her career at Northwestern as the recycling coordinator, and before that worked on solid waste education, recycled product procurement, and recycling programs for the state of Illinois and for a recycling company. So we got a good set of panelists here today, and I'm looking forward to sharing their expertise. Next slide, please. So without further ado, and you can go to the next slide, I want to talk through the ENERGY STAR Buildings program and some of the recognition you can earn from our neck of the woods. So why focus on buildings and plants? So our program at ENERGY STAR exists because buildings and plants represent a large chunk of U.S. Carbon dioxide emissions, around 45%. Next slide, please. And along with that, a lot of buildings, waste energy. So that means there's room for improvement. There's costs and GHG savings to be had. So that's sort of why we exist. Next slide, please. And as a voluntary EPA program, we sort of have 3 different main ways that we try and achieve improvement. We have leadership commitment, tools and resources, and then recognition. So I'm going to talk through each of those things a little more. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of leadership commitment, and we can launch a poll here, please. The first poll here, please. Wanted to ask if your organization is an ENERGY STAR partner, if you know. So there should be a poll popping up there you can respond to. If you don't know, you can find out using our partner list. As was mentioned at the top of the hour, these slides will be sent around so you'll be able to access all the links and stuff. 2 reasons you might want to become a partner include the ability to get management buy-in. So if any energy efficiency and energy performance work sort of needs support, that could help cement that. Also, the ability to align your organization with a leading brand in ENERGY STAR, which is recognized by more than 90% of American consumers. So it's a really powerful way to sort of align your organization with a nice symbol. And you can visit energystar.gov/join-buildings if you want to get started there. And I think we can close the poll here. I guess it might take a minute to see the results. But in the interim, I think we can move on to the next slide, and then those results will show up. So if we can go to the next, great, thank you. Okay, so I covered the sort of leadership commitment part of things, and now we're going to talk about tools and resources. So in terms of the existing sort of set of resources that we have at our program, many of you may be familiar with the ENERGY STAR Portfolio Manager tool. It's sort of core to a lot of what we do. It's the industry standard tool for benchmarking energy use, water use, and wasted materials. So it's a free online tool that's private, and through it you can see also 1-100 ENERGY STAR scores, which is a sort of proprietary metric that we created to see how your building's energy performance compares to similar buildings nationwide. All right, so there's that tool. We also have a summary scorecard for an initiative we developed specifically for the higher ed sector. This was, we had our first round of the Higher Education Benchmarking Initiative, or HEBI, in 2021. And this scorecard sort of summarizes the results of that at an aggregate level, looking across all the 200 participating campuses from about 100 institutions that were involved. And the scorecard looks at sort of relationships between campus-wide energy and water use and key characteristics like climate zone and Carnegie classification that are seen as sort of determinative of energy use for the sector. So if you didn't participate, it might be interesting to sort of look at that summary and see how your campus stacks up against the participating ones. The next set of resources we have is for ENERGY STAR treasure hunts, which are sort of funny branded thing around pirates, but anyway, it's a set of resources that allows you to walk through a building and identify common sources of energy waste, and then sort of sum up what the expected savings are for those issues. We have maps, we call them, for different spaces, including labs and student housing. So those two might be particularly relevant for higher ed. Yeah, so those set of resources available now. And then the last thing that I'll mention on existing is our competition hosting resources. So we have a bunch of communication materials, a spreadsheet you can use to manage sort of the data side of a competition, a lot of other stuff, but basically these resources exist if you wanted to do a competition, say, between residence halls on campus to try and reduce energy use or water use, or even wasted materials. So those things are all available. In 2022, we're hoping potentially to do a few new things. So we're hoping to organize a working group of institutions that are subject to benchmarking and building performance standard laws. So this would be a higher ed specific group. So that's one thing that might be coming down the pike. We're also hoping to launch a second round of the HEBI, the sort of scorecard peer comparison effort that we had the first round of in 2021. And please email me if you're interested in that. And then last thing, we're always looking to have more and more coverage of 1-100 ENERGY STAR scores in the sector. And we get that done where existing data doesn't exist through surveys that are developed by industry associations. So we're hoping to do more of a push on that in the coming year. And you can see all of our tools and resources in one place at the link at the bottom of this page, our landing page for the sector. So next slide, please. Okay, and then the last sort of section I have to talk about in the main section, the reason for the webinar today is on recognition. So these are our four main sort of forms of recognition on the building side. They include tenant space, which is aptly named for tenant spaces that are in multi-tenant buildings. We have ENERGY STAR certification, our sort of bread and butter, which is for existing buildings at the building level. And then we have Design to Earn the ENERGY STAR, which is an equivalent at the building level, but for new construction and major renovation. And then the last recognition we have is for organization-wide energy management, our Partner of the Year awards. Next slide, please. So ENERGY STAR tenant space is our newest kid on the block, if you aren't familiar with it. So if your organization leases any office space within a multi-tenant building, it could be eligible for this recognition. So the office space needs to be in the US, and then there are some sort of limitations around what types of offices can apply. But it would have to represent sort of all the usable space that you're occupying in the building. The recognition criteria are listed here. Quickly, they're to estimate the energy use, meter for all the spaces you occupy, meet a lighting efficiency standard, or lighting energy use standard, have a procurement policy for efficient equipment, and then the last one is, if requested, share data with the landlord so that they can benchmark at a whole building level. So it's more of a prescriptive set of things than as compared to a lot of our recognition, which is more performance-based, but does have a little bit of performance-based stuff in there. And yeah, we're really trying to promote this. And let's say you have a leased office space, like in a downtown office, if you're a bigger organization, or you know, there are a bunch of different sort of permutations that might be eligible. So yeah, I encourage you to check it out. Next slide, please. So the next recognition we have, as I mentioned, is sort of our bread and butter. It's a little complicated. It's our building level recognition for existing buildings. And we do have some rules sort of that are relevant for the sector. One is that all the fuels that the building uses, all the energy sources, have to be metered at the building level, which we know, varies from institution to institution on sort of the coverage of metering they have. So that's one of the rules. The other rule is that the other two rules are sort of combined about property type composition. The first one is that at least 3/4 of the floor area of the building have to be a type that can get a score, or a use type that can get a score. And then half of the building's floor area needs to be a single type that can earn certification. And the next slide will sort of go through some examples to drive this home. But then the process is pretty straightforward. You benchmark in our tool, put in 12 months of energy data, the floor area, and then some use details that are required by the property type. The score is 75 or higher, which is the sort of upper echelon that we use as a signifying leadership or superior energy efficiency. Then you apply through the tool and then get the application verified by a professional engineer or registered architect. And they can be on staff. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of eligibility, I wanted to talk a little bit more about property type composition, just to dig in here a little bit, to talk through, which of these examples would be eligible and which wouldn't. And I'm gonna not bury the lead and just tell you that the first 4 bullets here are all eligible, and the last 3 are not. On the right-hand side are the list of all the property types that can get a score in the tool. The bottom 3 are currently only eligible for scores. They can't certify. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, 2 rules are at least 75% of the floor area needs to get a score, and then half of the floor area needs to be from one of these types that's listed in black font that can certify. So these various examples are sort of there to look back to, but they all meet, the first 4 meet the rule, the last 3 do not. All right, next slide, please. And then the design to earn the ENERGY STAR is sort of equivalent to the existing building recognition, has a lot of the same criteria. It just applies to new construction and major renovation. So the same property types, the same score, the same use details, but it's just for a different set of buildings. You can use Target Finder as a sort of standalone tool we have in order to understand your score, or you can use Portfolio Manager, the same tool I mentioned earlier. You just have to apply for this recognition through Portfolio Manager, so sort of an extra incentive to use the latter. And this is a great opportunity to sort of close the gap, between design and operations, and continue benchmarking after the building is up and running. It's also a good opportunity if you're not metering every building or don't have that sort of complete coverage to start metering all the fuels at a building level and get rolling on that. All right, next slide. And I think this is my last one, and if we could launch the last poll as well. It was interesting on the last one that we had sort of even coverage across whether folks were a partner, didn't know if they're an ENERGY STAR partner, or were not a partner. So anyway, just wanted to cover that, those responses. So the last thing here, our ENERGY STAR Partner of the Year awards. So these are awards we give for sort of top level recognition of energy efficiency for organizations. And a couple of award categories that might be relevant for you all. Energy management is probably the main one, but if you're supporting the higher ed sector, then service and product provider, that category might be relevant to you. The application deadline is the same, give or take, each year. Later in 2022, usually around end of November, early December. And with the energy management application, we're looking for 3 sort of main things. The overall approach to energy management at the organization, the communications that they do to sort of promote energy efficiency, especially where they leverage ENERGY STAR as our brand, and then the energy savings that they achieved in the last year. And 2 recent winners in the sector, Northwestern University and University of Chicago. We'd always like to see more applicants and more interest here. There's one snapshot of a prior award event when it was pre-pandemic, but anyway, it's a great sort of way to connect with other organizations that are leading the way in the space across the economy. Really fun and a lot of sort of business deals and best practice sharing and all that. So we can close this poll. I'll wait on the results. We'll see what they are, and I'll hand things over to Dan Lawler next to talk about products.
Thanks, Brendan. We can jump to the next slide. Hi, everyone. So as Brendan mentioned at the top, my name is Dan Lawler. I work with the ENERGY STAR Products Labeling Branch. So Brendan just provided a really good snapshot of all the tools and resources and recognition that's available via the CNI program. And I was planning on doing something pretty similar on the product side. So just a quick primer for folks who may not be as familiar with the ENERGY STAR Products Labeling Branch. The ENERGY STAR label is available on products in about 75 different product categories at this point, and that that folks are likely familiar with, like heat pumps, data center storage, and commercial food service. So there's a wide range, both in the residential and commercial sector, of products where the ENERGY STAR label can be earned. And in addition, all of those products are third-party certified. So we set specifications for each of those products. And then in order for a manufacturer, for a brand owner to earn the label for that product, it actually has to be certified in a third-party lab or by a third-party certification body. So that really helps to define the label and ensure that consumers find value and trust in it. And then lastly, I mentioned the specifications. Those are specifications that we set, not necessarily every year, but we do have a pretty standard kind of revision review process, I would say every 2 to 3 years or so, where we take a look at the specifications. And essentially, we're really aiming to ensure that the top 20 to 25% of the products in the market in terms of efficiency are the ones that are earning the label. So that's just, like I said, kind of a quick primer around the ENERGY STAR products program. We can jump to the next slide. I thought I would kind of kick things off by just highlighting some of the top-level partner benefits in the ENERGY STAR products branch. I think, one of the quick taglines, one of the quick phrases that we like to say is that ENERGY STAR is the simple way to communicate efficiency to a wide range of audiences. Partnering with ENERGY STAR kind of provides that instant credibility. The logo is well recognized. In the last survey that we conducted in 2019, over 90% of households recognized the label. So there's plenty of recognition and awareness on the consumer side. And it's also obviously backed by the credibility of EPA and DOE as well, as I mentioned, the kind of third-party certification. And therefore, it's something that's actionable on the consumer side as well as on the business side. It's a really useful tool to add credibility to messaging around these products that are part of the program. So what I listed out here on this slide are kind of, like I said, some of the key points that I see in terms of benefits. First, partners are able to leverage that trusted brand that I just highlighted. We have a really strong network of partners from manufacturers to utilities to retailers. And that network is something that partners can leverage in multiple ways. And I'll talk about a few of those ways on a few of the slides upcoming. Second, we have national campaigns in which we develop messaging and graphics, including things like social media assets, web banners, fact sheets, things like that. And those are all assets that can be utilized by partners, whether you're kind of taking those as is or using certain bits and pieces in your efforts. Those are all components of campaigns that can be utilized by our partners. And then lastly, the kind of last high-level benefit I wanted to highlight is that in addition to the creation of those messaging documents and those graphics, is that we also run campaigns and promotions for multiple products throughout the year. I've got a slide a bit further on where I'll highlight that in some detail, but that's an area where we work very closely with our partners to help raise awareness of these products. We do a lot of work to understand kind of where best to promote, how best to promote. So we can talk about that in some detail a bit further on as well. We can jump to the next slide. I mentioned the resources that we have and that we've created. I wanted to highlight, I think the big item to highlight here on this slide is that a lot of these pieces are co-brandable, or like I said, you're able to kind of pick and choose like a menu from the resources that we've developed. One of my colleagues has a phrase that I think is very apt, and that is we encourage stealing. We like our partners to kind of take what they see works best for them. If they're creating a marketing campaign from scratch and they want to take some of our materials wholesale, that works for us. If they've already got some materials and they really just want maybe some savings numbers, savings statements, the types of marketing information that works well, kind of backed by EPA language, that works well too. So we really do kind of keep that in mind as we're creating these materials. And so I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that as well. I will say one of really the only kind of restrictions that we have is that we just ask that all of our partners follow the rules and guidelines that are outlined in the ENERGY STAR brand book, which ideally makes it clear and straightforward in terms of kind of how the logo should be used and how our messaging can be used as well. So we can jump to the next slide. So on the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit, moving away from some of the promotions and the marketing resources that we developed, to talk a little bit about partner networking and the opportunities available via kind of the information exchange of partnership. And Brandon touched on this a little bit as well. But here, things like our partner meetings, which we have every year. We've unfortunately had to go virtual with those for the past couple of years, but in the past, similar to the ENERGY STAR Partner of the Year ceremonies, are really great opportunities for partners to coordinate, to come together, share best practices, kind of understand what's happening from the retail, manufacturer, and utility perspective, understand kind of where incentives around certain products may be headed, and kind of what plans are around marketing and communications as well. So that's a really useful meeting that we have once a year. And in addition to that, I'll kind of skip around these bullets here a little bit, but the webinar and newsletters are kind of closely tied to those types of partner meetings. In addition to that regular meeting once a year, we also have regular webinars and newsletters that go out, and those can highlight some of the great things that our partners are doing. They can also highlight some of the work that we're doing and how we can work more closely with our partners. So a lot of information can be exchanged via those kind of regularly scheduled type of events. I will also say it's also a really great way to network. If there's an ENERGY STAR partner that you're aware of and is doing great work and you want to learn more from them, we are very willing and very often help facilitate those conversations. So that's also something that can be done as well. The other items on this list are partner database, the database of incentives and marketing, the directory of kind of efficiency programs. Again, also very useful tools if you're trying to either find a partner, find marketing resources, find incentives, understand what's happening maybe in your neck of the woods or in someone else's neck of the woods. Those are all resources that we have, and like Brandon said, we'll share this after the presentation, so you'll be able to check out these links. But again, just a way to help facilitate an exchange of information among partners. So next slide, please. And then again, Brendan, I know, touched on our Partner of the Year awards. Wanted to highlight this from the ENERGY STAR products team perspective. We also see this as a really exciting way for our partners to be recognized. Again, as Brendan noted, pre-pandemic, we had a really great event in Washington, D.C., where we were able to get a lot of folks together. This has become more of a virtual event, kind of done more over social media, but partners are still able to leverage their award recognition and really utilize that in some of their marketing efforts. And in addition to that, that's not the only time that we're trying to recognize our partners. On social media, via our newsletters, webinars, case studies, the kind of best practice information sharing that I described on the previous slide. Those are all ways that we try to ensure that our partners are being recognized for all the great work that they're doing. So next slide, please. And then here, wanted to highlight just a couple of the other tools and resources that we have available. And this is not just for partners, but this is for anybody. We've got our product finder, which is something that can be utilized by consumers, by businesses to identify ENERGY STAR certified products. A lot of filters are available to make that kind of nice and streamlined. We also have our rebate finder, quite similar to kind of the DIME tool that I mentioned previously, but the rebate finder is a little bit more consumer friendly in that you can simply drop in a zip code and find the utility rebates that are available in your area. And we're thinking about ways that we could expand that beyond utility rebates. So if there are, let's say state level incentives, we want to be able to try to find all of the incentives and be able to kind of highlight those in rebate finder as well. And then I mentioned the marketing materials previously. We now kind of post those on one central location on our website, and those are available year-round instead of being available just when it's kind of promotion time for that particular product. So we have now a big database of all those marketing materials, and like I said, that consists of messaging documents, social media assets, web banners, etc. And we're constantly kind of working with our partners to understand what other resources or information would be useful as well. So we can try to share that as well if folks have some interest there. Next slide. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight the annual promotions. These are the promotions that I mentioned previously, so I just wanted to kind of give folks an idea as to the types of products that we're promoting, the time frame around. Obviously here we're looking at 2021. This is kind of last year's plan, but just kind of gives you an idea as to kind of the, like I said, types of products that we're promoting and the time frame around which we're doing that. And again, we work very closely here with our partners to develop tools and resources for them, but also ensure that we're utilizing their expertise in these areas. And so this is something that folks on the phone could certainly get engaged in and be involved in, and kind of utilize energy STAR to help amplify some of your messaging around. So that I'll stop.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon. I'm Christopher Kent with EPA's Green Power Partnership Program, and thank you, Brendan, for giving me the opportunity to talk with you all today about another EPA program. The Green Power Partnership is a voluntary recognition and technical assistance program started over 20 years ago with the objective to increase organizational demand for renewable electricity by helping to spur new and expand existing renewable energy supplies by encouraging organizations to use increasing amounts of renewable electricity and to recognize and promote their leaders. The program goals are to educate stakeholders on the voluntary procurement options available in the U.S. renewable energy market, provide expertise on the renewable energy and options, motivate stakeholders in buying green power through marketing and recognition opportunities, and finally recognize leadership in green power use. We currently have about 800 partners using about 83 billion kilowatt hours annually, which is about 4% of the market. These partners range from Fortune 500 companies to small privately owned and operated businesses, retailers, federal, state, and local government agencies, colleges and universities, clearly. And it's almost easier to say who can't join the program. It's individual residences as well as energy retailers. In order to join, partners must be able to meet our minimum energy use requirements and then update us annually on their green power use. The partnership provides a variety of benefits to our partners, including providing tools and resources on the existing green power markets, marketing and outreach support in the form of press release templates, and then finally, partner recognition opportunities such as our top partner rankings and the Green Power Leadership Awards, as well as a means of identifying themselves in their purchasing of green power with the use of our partnership logo on their organization's sustainability and marketing materials. Next slide, please. So the Green Power Partnership, next slide, sorry. Yes, thank you. The Green Power Partnership recently developed some data visualizations of our green power, our partners' green power use by going back to the early days of the program. So we have about 20 years worth of organizational use of green power, and it's a very unique data set. Many researchers, analysts, and in many cases, competitive organizations are using this data to understand the dynamics of the green power market. And so when you go onto this website that's listed here, this is what the program data will look like. There's the ability to filter the data based on a variety of attributes, such as industry sectors or where they're getting their power. So the image on your left is our partners' green power use by supply type for every collection year. The images on the right, they are those same partners, but we're looking at where they're getting their green power supplies that they're using. For most of our partners, they're using one or more of these types of green power supplies to meet their organizational need. Next slide, please. So by filtering that same data, I wanted to show you some of our higher education partners, and we can dig into where about 130 different higher education partners are accessing their green power. As you can see, these nationally resourced renewable energy certificates is the most prevalent supply type. But these tend to be annual purchases. But when you bundle together some of these long-term contracts for electricity, and those would include the various power purchase agreements there, green tariffs, you can see there's a tremendous growth in the past decade. And if you just look at this past year, this past collection year, these higher education partners are accessing about 2 billion kilowatts of nationally resourced renewable energy certificates, about 1.6 billion in long-term contracts, about $500 million from their competitive suppliers or utility green pricing programs, depending on where they're located. And then in smaller amounts, there are about not quite a billion in self-generation, about $500 million coming from community choice aggregation programs that are available in about 14 states. And then community solar is a much smaller amount. Next slide, please. This past fall, we also updated the information we provide on each individual partner. For this partner is the University of California, which I'm going to talk about in a little later. But this provides a historic look on their green power use, some information about their organization, their sustainability website, and this is updated on an annual basis or more often based on the partner's needs. But all this information is coming from our partners, and we're presenting it in this new fashion. Next slide, please. And each quarter, the Green Power Partnership Program provides a list of our top partners by industry sectors and other attributes. This is an example of our top partner rankings for the higher education sector from this past quarter. We are in the process of right now developing a new list that should be out by the end of the month. These top partner list is one of the big drivers for engagement in our program, as well as a driver for having our partners report their ever-increasing amounts of green power. So they would move up in the rankings. EPA promotes a number of these national and sector-based rankings, as well as it's also an opportunity for these partners to promote their activities and what they're doing. So each quarter, we update our list and provide them press releases and marketing templates for our partners to promote their green power use. And there is a lot of friendly competition to be on the top. So you'll see a lot of dynamics of organizations increasing their amount of green power, not just to be on top of the list, but it's also just, especially with higher education, there's a lot of natural competition between schools, and it's a great media-friendly opportunity to promote their sustainability practices. Next slide, please. And finally, much like ENERGY STAR's Partner of the Year, we have the Green Power Leadership Awards. This is our big recognition opportunity at the annual Renewable Energy Markets Conference. So for the past 20 years, EPA has recognized hundreds of organizations for their exceptional achievements and leadership in the green power markets. It's a competitive award, and it's only open to green power partners. For example, this past year, we recognized Boston University for their innovative financial power purchase agreement, which at the time was the largest power purchase agreement in our higher education partners. They also did an outstanding job of promoting this unique green power supply option within their community of Boston, as well as to the higher education sector through a variety of conferences and speaking opportunities. We also recognize the University of California system for expanding its green power use, their community engagement, as well as setting aggressive goal setting in greenhouse gas reductions. Since 2018, the University of California system has tripled their green power use to 300 million kilowatts of green power annually. And this is in part done by their addition of 18 new on-site systems at their various campuses. And beyond this past year, we have recognized many higher education schools, such as Cal Poly last year, Madison Area Technical College the year before, St. Louis University, Northampton Community College, Michigan State, and many, many others. So this is just a sampling of what the Green Power Partnership can do, and if you're interested in applying or learning more about it, please let me know, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. And thank you, and now over to Julie.
Hello, all. Good afternoon, and thank you, Brendan, Dan, and Chris, for your insights into these programs. I am happy to join you all to provide a little different perspective and share Northwestern's experience with these EPA programs and recognition. There are definitely opportunities in partnership, and it would be nice to see more higher education involvement. So much great work is being done across our campuses, and that work should be celebrated nationally. And listening to the previous presentations, I realize I'll be touching on many of the things mentioned, so hopefully you'll see these as learning a little bit more about how to put these things into practice, or at least how we've done it. Next slide, please. So joining as a partner, these groups was our first step. Northwestern is both a Green Power partner and an ENERGY STAR partner. Our motivations for joining them, just kind of broadly, generally, were the opportunity for recognition. Just being a partner is an opportunity to be recognized. Greater transparency and visibility into our efforts, and the ability to identify best practices and benchmark opportunities. For the Green Power Partnership, we had been buying RECs for a few years. And we were at a level that made us eligible, so there really wasn't any additional effort to be part of the program. Chris mentioned the annual update. That is another thing you have to do, but it's a pretty easy lift with minimal requirements. So I would encourage you, if you are purchasing, to look into that. I think some of the benefits of it, sharing the rankings and just being listed brought greater campus awareness to what we were doing. I will note Chris's slide cut off Northwestern, but we are on that list, on the top 30 list. We're just not in the top 10 currently. But more on that, RECs, as you mentioned, a lot of what our universities have been doing over the past few years, they can be challenging for your community to understand. If you actually have on-campus renewables, a solar array, for instance, is hard for people to see. PPAs that you've executed aren't necessarily something that people get, but seeing the rankings puts your efforts in the company of peers in a very visible platform. When it comes to ENERGY STAR, we started using Portfolio Manager first because it was a free platform to track and compare our usage across our campus portfolio. And then as benchmarking ordinances came into play in both of our host communities, that's Chicago, Illinois, and Evanston, Illinois, it became, a mandatory. So it was actually fortunate that we had the experience of using Portfolio Manager because it gave us the familiarity, which helped us to achieve compliance with the ordinances. Once we started using Portfolio Manager and getting more into, the ENERGY STAR program, it was natural for us to become a partner. And the partnership originally provided context and buy-in for establishing an energy management policy and accountability for these efforts, as well as for an older campus with aging infrastructure, which Northwestern has, and I'm guessing other campuses on this feel the same. Meter accuracy and data monitoring were an issue. And while the need for this accuracy should be obvious, I'm guessing that we're not the only campus that has struggled to get prioritization and the investment necessary to make these things happen. So Portfolio Manager helped us to identify issues and support a meter mapping exercise for enhanced accuracy. It can be hard to increase the campus population's awareness of sustainability efforts, and participation in these partnerships really helps get us attention. Joining the Green Power Partnership and the ENERGY STAR partnership definitely led us to greater participation. As Brendan noted, there are multiple programs and certifications and opportunities. You don't have to do them all, but I encourage you to dive in and see what works best for your campus and adopt those practices. We've been able to promote campus initiatives in conjunction with this national validation and branding. Our partnership has provided insights into other opportunities. It can help kind of get through the clutter. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Some are true opportunities, some are more gimmicky. but there's a lot of content available from ENERGY STAR. Dan mentioned all the campaigns, and I just wanted to reiterate that ENERGY STAR assets are easy to complement your campus efforts. You mentioned stealing. I like to consider it recycling. So, use what you see out there, recycle it to fit your community. Next slide, please. So achieving recognition and leveraging it kind of go hand in hand. I'm going to talk a little bit about both the kind of how you get to being recognized and getting an award, as well as leveraging the assets to get the recognition and kind of benefit from that recognition both. I'm guessing most, if not all of you on this call have initiated some kind of sustainability effort on your campus. Some of what is needed to achieve recognition you're likely already doing. So reducing energy use, potentially procuring renewables or offsets, those are part of it. Brendan mentioned your energy use being part of the reporting for the award. Some of the requirements are things that you certainly want to do: outreach and education, increasing awareness across your campus. So both of those things are kind of already part of our process, and they are what get you to recognition. Using the brand tools provides both engagement opportunities that you want and builds your case for an application for receiving the award. We use ENERGY STAR tools and resources, marketing and brands regularly. ENERGY STAR programs have supported the creation of our Green Office certification. We used an ENERGY STAR program called Bring Your Green to Work when we were developing that. They also supported the Green Home certification that we created when we went to remote work. And we use the ENERGY STAR at Home program to kind of help us inform that. And we're looking to use the treasure hunt that Brendan mentioned earlier. Both of our law school and our library are interested in that. And engaging your campus community in these initiatives are direct ways that individuals can support your institutional efforts and feel like they are playing a role in achieving those. And ENERGY STAR provides an easy way to share social media posts. Dan touched on this. You'll see one of our posts in the bottom corner there. We literally just kind of cut and pasted and adapted an existing post to our own. I think you can also readily use the resources to create content and materials that support campus initiatives for marketing. Promotion of ENERGY STAR products, Dan went into that a bit. That's an easy way to message our expectations for purchase of electronics and appliances. We set that as an expectation both for our internal purchasing as well as we communicate it to our vendors. So whether it's a food service vendor or a computer products vendor, they know that ENERGY STAR products are something we're looking for and telling our folks to source. And sharing with our community for consideration at home also helps to increase awareness. I think if folks understand the impact, it's easier for them to understand the impact these things have at home, and so then they can more readily understand why that matters at work and in the campus setting. So if you're reducing energy use, looking to renewables, and engaging your campus in these efforts, you've laid the groundwork for recognition. And once you receive the recognition, receiving the award validates our efforts and gets greater attention. This is both from our marketing communications folks, our campus population, internal stakeholders and decision makers, as well as our local community. For us, it's a struggle to get the attention of our campus-wide marketing group. There's so many competing priorities, but when it's a national award, they tend to pay attention and you get coverage. So we've gotten press releases issued around the awards we've received much more readily than on other initiatives that we have pushed out. We use our status as a Partner of the Year and Sustained Excellence winner to demonstrate the validity of the efforts on campus and the need to prioritize these issues. And it's a cause for celebrating our success, which we should all be doing more often. Outcomes, kind of to wrap up, as with any award application, it can be daunting, but it's worth it. Full disclosure, Northwestern applied twice before we actually achieved recognition, so don't be discouraged if you don't win on your first try. And in summary, I just want to reiterate that partnerships can provide recognition and acknowledgement. They can lead to greater campus publicity. The partnership will increase awareness of ENERGY STAR resources to you and your own teams and help you creatively think of ways to use them. Leveraging the assets and brands then support application for awards and greater recognition. And I encourage you all to please join Northwestern and recently the University of Chicago in exploring these opportunities and gaining greater recognition for the work being done in higher education. Thank you. That's all I have.
Love that wrap up, Julie. And I just want to mention here, so I know we've packed a lot into this webinar, so I think all of us are very comfortable with follow-up. So here are our emails listed. Please do reach out if you have any questions or anything you want to talk more about.